Florida, the Sunshine State, evokes images of beaches, theme parks, and vibrant life. But beneath this sunny facade lurks a dark, secret sex trafficking. This crime, often called modern-day slavery, involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to trap people into commercial sex. Victims, often young and vulnerable, are robbed of their freedom and exploited for profit. It's a global issue. But Florida, with its tourism industry and transient population, has become a hotspot for this horrific crime. Many people misunderstand sex trafficking, thinking it always involves physical force or abduction. While those can occur, manipulation and psychological coercion are more common. Traffickers prey on vulnerabilities, promising love, security, or a better life. Recognizing the signs and understanding the methods used by traffickers is the first step in combating this horrific crime. This essay will delve into the realities of sex trafficking in Florida and how you can join the fight to end it. Florida's unique characteristics, while attracting tourists, also create vulnerabilities that traffickers exploit. The state's large transient population, bustling nightlife, and proximity to international borders make it easier for traffickers to operate unnoticed. Runaway and homeless youth are particularly at risk. Traffickers target them at bus stations, shelters, and online, offering a place to stay and a sense of belonging. They exploit their desperation, quickly turning a helping hand into a coercive situation. Immigrants, especially undocumented ones, are also targeted, with traffickers exploiting their fear of deportation and language barriers. The internet has become a hunting ground for traffickers. Social media platforms, online dating sites, and even gaming sites are used to lure victims. Florida's booming tourism industry also plays a role, with large events providing traffickers with a pool of potential victims. It's a stark reminder that sex trafficking can happen anywhere, even in paradise. The stories of sex trafficking survivors are heartbreaking testaments to the reality of this crime. Take the case of Sarah, a young woman who ran away from home at 15 after facing abuse. She was approached by a man who promised her food, shelter, and a listening ear. Sarah, desperate for kindness, believed him. He quickly began isolating Sarah from her friends and family, controlling her every move. He forced her into prostitution, threatening violence if she refused. Sarah, trapped and terrified, felt she had nowhere to turn. Another survivor, Maria, was trafficked from Mexico to Florida with the promise of a job as a waitress. Upon arrival, her passport was confiscated and she was forced into sexual exploitation. By sharing their stories, we break the silence surrounding this crime and shed light on the urgent need to protect vulnerable individuals. The statistics surrounding sex trafficking in Florida are alarming. The National Human Trafficking Hotline ranks Florida as one of the top 3 states for reported cases. In 2023, the hotline received over 700 calls and online reports related to human trafficking in Florida. These numbers only represent the tip of the iceberg. Many cases go unreported due to fear and lack of awareness. Experts believe the actual number of victims is far greater. Children are especially vulnerable, with the average age of entry being 12 to 14 years old. The scars of trafficking can last a lifetime. The statistics paint a grim picture but serve as a call to action. It's time to acknowledge the problem and work together for a safer future. Section 5, Behind the Curtain, the grooming process and its stages. Sex trafficking doesn't always begin with a violent abduction. Traffickers are master manipulators, employing a calculated process known as grooming to gain their victims' trust and coerce them into exploitation. This process typically involves several stages, each designed to further isolate and control the victim. The first stage is often targeting and recruitment. Traffickers identify vulnerable individuals, those who are lonely, seeking acceptance or facing difficult circumstances. They then swoop in, showering them with attention, gifts and promises of a better life. Once trust is established, the trafficker begins to isolate the victim from their support system. The next stage involves introducing the victim to the commercial sex industry, using threats, violence, or psychological manipulation to maintain control. Understanding the grooming process is crucial for prevention and protection. Section 6. Not just numbers, the lasting trauma on survivors. The impact of sex trafficking extends far beyond the act itself. Survivors often carry the invisible scars of their exploitation long after they escape the clutches of their traffickers. Many survivors struggle with PTSD, experiencing flashbacks, nightmares, and anxiety. They may also struggle with depression, guilt, shame, and low self-esteem, believing the lies their traffickers told them. The physical toll of trafficking can be just as devastating, with chronic pain, sexually transmitted infections, and reproductive health issues. Malnutrition and sleep deprivation can lead to long-term health problems. Addressing the trauma of trafficking is a critical aspect of helping survivors heal and reclaim their lives. Trauma-informed care, which acknowledges the profound impact of trauma and prioritizes safety, trust, and empowerment, is essential for their recovery journey. By providing survivors with access to counseling, medical care, and supportive services, we can help them find hope and begin to heal. Section 7. Florida fights back law enforcement and their role. In the face of this horrific crime, law enforcement agencies across Florida are stepping up their efforts to combat sex trafficking. Specialized units have been established within police departments and sheriff's offices to investigate and prosecute trafficking cases. One of the key challenges in combating sex trafficking is identifying victims. Traffickers often keep their victims isolated and fearful, making it difficult for them to come forward or for law enforcement to detect them. To address this, law enforcement agencies are increasingly focusing on training officers to recognize the signs of trafficking. Training programs often involve educating officers about the different forms of trafficking, the tactics used by traffickers, and the indicators that someone may be a victim. By recognizing these red flags, officers can intervene earlier, potentially rescuing victims and holding traffickers accountable. In addition to training, law enforcement agencies are also working to strengthen partnerships with community organizations and service providers. Section 8. Hope on the Horizon, NGOs and their tireless efforts. While law enforcement plays a crucial role in combating sex trafficking, they are not alone in the fight. NGOs across Florida work tirelessly to prevent trafficking, support survivors, and raise awareness. They offer a lifeline, providing safe havens, essential services, and paths to healing. Sell Our Freedom operates safe houses for survivors of sex trafficking in Florida. They also offer counseling, medical care, legal advocacy, education, and job training. The Human Trafficking Institute disrupts the business of human trafficking. These are just two examples of many NGOs combating sex trafficking in Florida. Their dedication and compassion are a beacon of hope for survivors. Section 9. Recognizing the signs, how you can make a difference. The fight against sex trafficking is not just the responsibility of law enforcement and NGOs, it requires the active participation of every member of society. By educating ourselves about the signs of trafficking and taking action when we suspect something is wrong, we can all play a role in preventing this crime and protecting potential victims. One of the most important things you can do is to learn the indicators of sex trafficking. If you suspect that someone may be a victim of sex trafficking, it is crucial to act. Do not confront the suspected trafficker directly, as this could endanger the victim. Instead, contact law enforcement immediately. You can also call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-3737-888 to report a tip anonymously. Another way to make a difference is to support organizations working to combat sex trafficking. Section 10. Every Voice Matters, a call to action for Florida's future. Sex trafficking is a complex and pervasive issue that demands a multifaceted response. It requires a collective effort from individuals, communities, and institutions to dismantle the systems that allow this crime to flourish and create a world where everyone is free from exploitation. We must challenge the societal norms and attitudes that contribute to the demand for commercial sex. We must address the root causes of trafficking, such as poverty, homelessness, and lack of access to education and opportunities. Every one of us has a role to play in this fight. Educate yourself and others about the signs of trafficking. Advocate for stronger laws and policies to hold traffickers accountable and protect victims. Together, we can create a future where every person is free to live a life of dignity and respect.